Varmt välkomna hit till det här premiärsamtalet inför kvällens föreställning av PUUR eller PUUR. Och vi ska ha det här samtalet på engelska och vi bara får ordning på ljudet så att det fungerar. I shall say a warm welcome because we will keep the rest of the talk in English. And I'm very happy to introduce my two guests, Wim Vandekeybus, who is the creator of this piece, and of course Nicholas Le Riche, who is artistic director of the Royal Swedish Ballet. A warm welcome to you, and I think we can give them one more applause. And my name is Katarina Aronsson, and I'm dramaturg here in the house. So, my first question to you, Wim, is that...
Strange.
Shall we try another microphone?
No,
yes.
maybe it's okay.
Yeah, we had a similar problem actually on stage. Yeah. Okay. This piece was created in 2005, and now you have returned and restaged the piece. And how is it to restage a work? We have choreography already here.
How is it to restage a piece? It's like beginning from zero.
Okay.
Because yeah. Now I have to launch. Okay, this works. No. Yeah. Okay, so basically if you restage a piece, you forgot everything. It's like I had to look back to some video we had and it was like, who made that piece? My God, we have to go to do this again. I was a bit surprised, in fact, that it was such a big, strong work. And then with the people, you have to start as it's not just a dance piece, it's a story, a terrible tragedy, let's say, about a Christian story, also a Hindu story, because Krishna and Jesus, they have a lot in common, just if they lived 3,000 years in between. And it was the same story, that there was a new king born and the leaders wanted to eliminate all the young boys to get rid of them, and the crime is justified by prevention. I think if you open the newspaper now, there are some similar stories maybe for security and...
Yeah, I think we will return to the theme in the piece. We just talked before, Nicholas, that one of the dancers tonight, Nicholas Ek, which is really a legend here in Stockholm, and he actually danced in Maurice Berger's Cercle du Printemps, and you also danced the same role actually as he did. Isn't that true?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
I must say also that talking about restaging and having different kind of dancer in the same production make a totally new production in a way. I don't know if you agree, Wim, because somehow you have so much from the you can feel so much about the dancers and how they are implicated in the production, so suddenly it becomes kind of another production.
Do you agree?
Yes, but on the other hand, what I mainly feel is, like, I think it's now more than 10 years ago, that time is very important. Like, I sometimes have an idea for a show, and I feel 10 years after I should just start from the same thing and do it again, and it will be totally different. Because mostly I start for something, but then we start to create. We start with a writer who writes text, who creates the bad guys, what they say. We have kids, we have mothers, so everybody has a role. And for a dancer, of course, they are young, strong dancers, but to embody a character, And that's very important, I think, also for the quality of dancing, how they do. And that dancing is not only steps or formal things, but that it's sometimes throwing sticks or doing something else. And that, for instance, the text scenes here are done by the dancers. So I had to say, you're going to be an actor now, you're not going to dance a lot. And some people embrace this so wonderfully that they made big steps also. And that's the unpredictable chemistry that you create in a group. And that's beautiful always.
Yeah. Have you been asked by a choreographer to talk on stage as well?
By some choreographers, yes, but not by Wim. I'm still waiting for it.
Okay. Maybe you have something.
But I did make my application to him.
Yeah. I think I should just give a short presentation of you because I think that's important. Nicholas Le Riche, you come from Paris, France, and you have been artistic director here for 1 year. You became director here 1 year ago. And before you were at Étoile, at the Paris Opera, the most prestigious thing you can be as a dancer in France, of course. And you have danced with all choreographers, I would say, all the important choreographers.
But
and
not Wim.
Not Wim.
Yet.
The pressure is getting heavier. And after you ended your career as a dancer, you were head of ballet at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées, and now you're here, and we are very happy to have you here. And you, Wim, you have been in your company, Ultima Vez, for over 30 years, and you have made more than 30 pieces. And your style is, as we have heard here, a combination of dance, film, theater. You use any type of expression in your pieces.
Not all the time,
but in this piece.
Yeah, I use what I need.
Good. And you have received a lot of prestigious prizes, of course. And last year you made your first feature film. Yes, I think that you have a picture of who are sitting here. So if we return to this evening's piece, how did it all start? How did you get the idea to make this piece?
Well, I was in a museum in Firenze and I was standing in front of a painting and it was called The Killing of the Infants. And it was soldiers with swords. It was Rubens who painted it full of muscles and Flemish painter. And the mothers fighting for their babies to not let them killed. And I could not understand the content of it. I was like, okay, soldiers get the orders to execute, but they are also young fathers. So they also have kids. And I could not understand that. And I started to think about it. And I said, it's an interesting theme that, and I think even where we live now, in the world now, and that's why I think it's an important piece to do now also, that there are a lot of things happening that we can't understand. That we say, but wait, how this can happen now? And time is very relative. I often let me inspire by old stories because I think history repeats itself, but sometimes it's a danger too. So I think it's a bit as a responsibility almost that I go to dig in something dark, something tragic, and still see the beauty of it or that it's supportable to see a show in that. And I think it's about human values that we question without being moralistic, because it's like in a movie. In a movie, you don't have a movie if you don't have a bad guy or a bad character. You need that things can happen, that there is conflict, that people have to struggle. And I think we live in a world where, let's say, democracy feels like everything has to be under control and this and that, but underneath happen a lot of things who are emotional. And I think the stage is a bit a compression of emotions that we can't live outside, or that are the dark things that some people imagine or do, and that we have to not speak about. And in this way, I think it's a piece that is about the necessity of not being blind and to mirror stories and to tell these stories also, to think about it.
It's a very serious theme, this killing of children. You never thought that maybe this is not possible to do on stage? Maybe people will be too scared to see it? Or?
In fact, I came up with a trick. I said, suppose we think about that story. And so I said, let's do the story in a film that happened long time ago, like a memory, like when you think about something terrible, and the film is the memory, and on stage people are in the hereafter. They all died. They all are dead. And in fact, it's like we are dead, but we still talk. We still, oh, and you, who are you? Like, and it's like you could meet your father who is younger than you because he died younger than you. And that's why the age is relative. The little children in the film are the dancers on the scene. And the mothers are the young dancers of the... And they dance with each other, and you can imagine that it's a mother with a baby, but it's adult people. But in the film, you see other things. It's like thinking about something traumatic, but being able to speak about it. So it's a kind of double, a kind of meta state.
Nicola, I know that it was actually Johannes Öhman who invited Wim, because you have to do that several years before. But as responsible and as the person who creates the repertoire and so on, are there themes or topics that you really can't show on stage? What's your opinion about it?
I believe that the stage is a magic place where we can say a lot, depending on how you say it. And I must say that when you have the chance to have extremely talented creators there, they have this, they make everything possible. And that's why we come here at the theater, at the opera, to see it. Maybe it would have been difficult to talk about this subject somewhere else, but here it's possible suddenly, because you are free to read it somehow with your own capacity to understand it.
Yeah. The title, PUUR or Pure, why did you choose that title?
Because it's, in one way, a baby is innocent, it's pure, and that's why babies have an incredible empathic force. Like if you see, it's the same, like if you see a film and there's a character of a little kid, you know this little kid is gonna make us. That's his role. Kids have that because they are innocent. And on the other hand, it's a very dangerous word also, pure. And maybe even now, in the political world now, there is again this thing of purity, we have to be pure, but the whole world is mixing and doing, because the world becomes a village. Even internet is like, everybody knows everything. That's a very dangerous thing. There is no purity anymore. Everything is contaminated. Everything is... So people start to build off borders and this and that. And it's about this. It's creating fear and say outside it's unlivable. We have to live in bunkers inside. So pure is a beautiful word, but also a very dangerous word, I think.
So when you created this piece from the beginning, could you tell us something about the process? How did you start? I mean, you have music, you have text, you have dances.
We didn't have anything, because mostly you start from... The music is much later that it comes. The writer comes to see what we are working on. How this is... It's a very chaotic... I am very good to look to something and to make something else out of it. Because you can't put that story as it is on stage. This would be like educating the audience. You never have to do that. You have to touch people, and this touching is, like Nicholas says, it's an abstraction of something. Of course you're gonna see beautiful images, of course you hear strong music, you see beautiful dance, but it is in a context. It's not that it's not moralistic, it's funny also. There are very funny things in. And
yes, it is. I loved.
and in this way, it's like when a tragedy happens, there are always people who, like the baby, doesn't realize yet. He's innocent. So you have to go in that innocent. You have to go in the mother who fights for her kid. You have to go in the bad guy's head. How can he think that? And who is his assistant? And who takes care for who, and how this society, it's a kind of mini society that can make us reflect about how our society is in a more complex way.
So when do you know when a piece is ready? Okay, now it's perfect.
Perfect, it's never. But that's why I only made 3 pieces revivals for big companies of the 34 or something. So I'm not so much into that. I like creation, and creation is always imperfect. It's scary. It's you have to. Monday I continue a new show that in 5 weeks has premiere. So it's a new thing. In October comes another show, and I'm more thinking about this because I feel this is now for the dancers and for the technical crew and for everything is done. I pass it to them. Of course, I will come back and see and rehearse and do and give feedback, but it's in one way, creation, you don't have a wall here that you can lean on. It's like, ooh, it's empty. Like,
yeah. Talking a bit about the dancers, Nicolas. What does it mean for a dancer to work with a choreographer such as Wim?
Well, I must say that it has been a journey, Wim, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we have been through a lot of things, but mostly, I must say, I'm so impressed to see how the dancers are growing into Wim world through the whole process of the production. Somehow it's like a metamorphosis, and they are really growing actually, and it's spectacular because first it starts with a proposition coming from Wim, so let's try to do this and that, and then at the end it becomes totally natural, and so you see the nature of the dancer, and it's wonderful to be able to look at it.
You have yourself worked with classical ballet and neoclassical dance and modern dance, and as the dancers here in this company. So how do you combine all these techniques as a dancer?
Well, I must say, you have to look at it like a rainbow, I would say, or that's what
a rainbow. Okay,
a rainbow,
yeah.
yes, and it's about different colors who make a complete picture of it. It's each time a discovery. It's each time an introspection, and each time you build yourself, you learn, so you grow and you become someone a bit different. It's not going through one choreography and the other. It's more like building something. And I must say, it's so easy when you have someone like Wim in the studio when you are a dancer, because basically you just need to be open and to go for it. So it's, I would say, somehow kind of easy to be curious.
Mm-hmm. You could say that this is, I think, quite a challenging piece for the dancers, as far as I can say from what I have seen. I mean, there are a lot of things happening. So what would you say is the most challenging for the dancers here? I mean, when it comes to technical things or combination of different talents?
Well, I try to... It should be challenging to make them feel important. Also, we don't have a double cast, for instance. We have nobody extra. So I said you should be happy that you are irreplaceable, that you are the one who takes that role and you are the one. And then in the head, you are very important. And this is a bit, of course, I have an independent company. We always have just that people. Here they have the possibility, for some pieces it's fantastic to have several casts. But here the challenge is really to make everybody important. And there is not a first principle or this. In one way, all the roles are important. Mm.
They are quite different characters. So what do you look for when you choose the dancers to be in your piece? What do you look for? What do you want?
The naturality is very important. Of course, the playfulness. Like not only that the technique comes to me, but the transmission of the skill is very natural. That they can hide that they are a dancer almost. And that's maybe hard to say in a ballet company, but in one way it's like this. And I think even before, there are a lot of pieces that you are like extremely good classical dancers, but they have to hide that they are dancers. This was a kind of neoclassical technique, of course, of when you work with mats and so, it's like, it's people in a room. And it's not only showing that you dance, you have to know why you dance. Before, dance was also, it was an expression. You know, when somebody dies, people dance, sad. When somebody marries or newborn, people dance happy. And it was like the troubadour who went to sing his message in a song. And that's why David Eugene Edwards is one of the singers he plays the role of the prophet. He comes to sing that there is gonna be a new child born. In a different text, of course. He doesn't use these words, but he is the messenger. And singers should be messengers. Dancers should be, they express something, they embody something. Mm.
And you have to make them,
to
make this happen. And you have to have great dancers, such as Nicholas.
Absolutely.
So the last question will be, what piece are you going to make for him? So you have to think about that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you have had fantastic careers, both of you, but you have worked in very different ways, because Nicholas, you have been part of an institution. I mean, you have been at the Paris Opera almost all your career, and now you're here. This is also an institution. And you, on the contrary, you have, as far as I know, never been in an institution. You are a freelance, more or less. So could we reflect a bit on that? I mean, what's the good thing? Could you even imagine being in a theater, in an institution like this all the time?
All the time, no.
No.
No, because it's... but I think it's fantastic that I can get... I know, when we made this piece, we traveled it like, we played it like 90 times or something, but sometimes maximum 3 times in one place. A lot of times only once in a place, and then the rest. So we have been in 40 different places. We come, we build, and the next day we play. Here you have technique, the stage, you know it, and it's fantastic also. But, you know, you don't have to think, now I'm in the institution. You go in the studio and you look to the people and you say, we have to do something. And you start to work and you forget that you're in the institution. Just they come to say, you have to stop. Because the institution has stopping time.
Okay.
And in my, we have a beginning time in the morning, but we don't know when we stop. There is no rule.
No.
So we have days that we stop early and days that we are still there.
So have you argued about this? Or?
A little bit, but I think Nicola is he's a hard worker all his life. Eh?
Yeah.
He knows how it is.
Yeah.
As a performer, you have to work hard, and it's not that it falls like from heaven. You have to work, and to make a piece is hard work.
So how long does it take to make a piece like this? I mean, from the first
the creation, 4 months.
4 months. Okay.
But I think about it before. Creation is 4 months.
Okay. So when you come into the studio where the dancers are, I mean, if it is like that, I mean, how much work is before and how much is after with the dancers?
It depends. Like now I'm gonna make another piece, also with a movie in. Then you have to plan a lot. And also you have to see where is the money coming for the movie, because it's not a big movie, it's inside. It's like the scenography, you know. I made movies that it was like, say, there is no money. I say, okay, how much money is there for the scenography? Well, this. I say, okay, we make a movie with this and the movie will be the scenography.
Okay.
It's like you have to shuffle to do, you have to cast, you have to, if you want to work with a writer, you have to find the musicians, you have to, mostly they are on tour or this, you have to book them, you have to feel, you have to really try to say, do you want to do that? I worked with David Byrne or something, it's not that you phone him and he comes. You have to to work on it, you know? Like, but a lot of work happens, but I like also that a lot you don't know. It's wonderful to go in the studio and that the dancers say, well, there is still place that I can put something in. Like a lot of things come from working around, we have an idea and then we stage something, and sometimes it's the dancers who have the idea for the scene and we work it out. And I oblige people to do improvisations, to say, I am driven, I come with things, but say, stop, I have another idea who has nothing to do maybe with it, to give me counterpoint. And that's very interesting.
What about the audience and the reactions from the audience and reaching out to the audience? I suppose you both think that it's quite important to have an audience.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's time
here
to have an audience.
Here we have an audience, for instance.
Yeah.
So could you say that the audience affect your work in any way?
I don't, how to say, I try to be, you know, it's like when you have a piece and it's successful somehow, then it's very dangerous to do again the same piece. I always change, and then I come, oh yeah, now I'm going to do something else. And then I went to say, I want blind people on the scene. So I went to look for blind people. But of course, they can't just dance and do. And now I have a blind dancer, actor, who is on the stage and nobody sees anymore he's blind because he made 5 productions. He speaks all the languages, he acts, he do, but the whole scenography is always that he can feel where he is.
Yeah.
So he brings a lot of ideas, and then it's like making a piece where a kid is the architect of the whole evening. Of course, immediately the show became 2 kids, because the kid was too lonely during the process and we were working with more kids and they start to work very good together. So to give a challenge for new thing. The last piece was super theatrical, was a science fiction piece about messiahs who saves 7 people out of a unlivable world. Only 7. And these 7 people on stage, and they are totally different. But it would be strange that the messiahs only saves 7 dancers of the opera or something. He chose like a guy, an actor, a mother, the blind person. So very different. A Chinese girl who represents the 80 million girls who disappeared because of the one-child policy. So we really had that idea. People represent something. And then, of course, you start to work, but suddenly you say, "Oei, we have only 3 dancers. The rest is actors."
Yeah.
But they have to move too, and it's great to see them move.
So how shall we keep the audience in the future, Nicola? What do you think about reaching out to audiences?
I believe that a stage like this is a place to question, and maybe some pieces are very challenging. Some are a bit less, but still it's an exchange, a conversation between, I would say, two words who become one word, and yes, keeping the conversation going on.
I think it's also great to see Alice in Wonderland yesterday, I don't know, and today you can see PUUR, and then tomorrow you can see Elektra, I don't know, but it is contradiction between the works. That's the richness of a house like this. They can do it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for listening. And we are so much looking forward to the performance. Thank you.